Hey guys, this is Frank Mir, and you're watching ShowMeYourJits.com.
What's Suffer?
That's actually a new company coming out now that I'm a part of. I'm happy to be with. Basically, right now we're concentrating most on the media side. That's why you see the magazines out there. We are going to start going into the apparel aspect of mixed martial arts. And you know what? I see a lot of companies out there that that are going out, tap out, and I think that have improved. But I think that it's a gateway into our youth's mind. Is a lot of the merchandise, or a lot of anything that goes out there. You think about basketball. You don't think Nike, their commercials, has an influence on how children view certain sports. And so by me doing this company Suffer and being part of it, I get to convey some of the ideas and beliefs that I have as a martial artist into the youth. I see too many guys now that I think they forget sometimes that there is an entertainment aspect, and I blame myself for this also now as of recently. We want to sell fights, so sometimes we have to do things, or we try to make things look a certain way. Taking notes almost out of even pro wrestling. I'm a big fan of Muhammad Ali, so certain things I'll just leave to Muhammad Ali. He does a lot better than I do. But I think there's a real aspect to being a martial artist that I think that sometimes people lose in our sport. It's not just about shaving your head and having tattoos and earrings and wearing a tap-out shirt and saying that you're, because you train, jiu-jitsu, you can kill some. Samurai were always warring, right? It was feudal Japan, and there was constant battles. But that in the 1600s, for 250 years, a relatively peaceful era. So you had a whole cast of classic warriors that had nothing to do with life, that they were kind of lost. I think a lot of times in our society we have the same issue. You see a lot of men that are very strong and independent, and I think sometimes we're misguided. And I think that's when a lot of our youth gets in trouble, and they do things because they don't know what it's like to have an identity, to be a warrior. And so the Hakaguri was written by Yamamoto because it was to describe how samurai were supposed to conduct themselves in a time when it wasn't really, you weren't able to go and do battle. And right now, that's kind of how we are with modern society and the way everybody's more civilized now. I think there's a part of the human soul that becomes stagnant. I think that when you do that, you have problems, and I can point throughout all our country all the issues that continue to happen. And so there's the second verse in the book that talks about suffering. How constant suffering and diligence and training hard is what makes you a great warrior. That decadence and indulgence makes you soft and weak, and you're of no use to anybody, your family, or whoever you pray to, or in any which way or form. And so that's why I like the word suffer, because I think that if you look at everybody, if we look at our own lives and our own lives, when you suffer is when you're the greatest. I'd rather fight a guy who's coming off of 11 wins in a row than fight a guy that's coming off of 3 losses. Because we know that guy with 3 losses knows his back's against the wall. He's been suffering, he's in pain, he's hurting, and he's going to be a very vicious human being.
Even though you had a win against Congo, do you feel like you're still suffering somewhat?
Yeah, well, I think that we got to constantly, you put yourself through it. I think that you're your own worst critic. Anybody who's content with their own. My wife, my family, my father, they're very good at keeping me kind of tempered in that way. Sometimes I'm not satisfied with what I do. And so you can kind of, I think that when you see people, not that they ever do with depression or anything, but as far as just, you can be too hard on yourself. And I think sometimes, even my game room, you've been to my home, my wife made the whole room for me just so that way I can sit there and look up at some of the awards it had. Because up at that point, the heavyweight belt was sitting inside of my closet, I didn't put it out. People would ask to see it, I'm like, really, you care? Like, I was like, they're like, where's the belt? I'm like, at one point I had left it in the Navigator in my car for like 2 weeks and took it to the car wash. People were like, is that the belt back there? I'm like, yeah. Why? Once you win it doesn't mean anything. Now it's the next battle. But then the wife's like, no, not that you have to sit back and really, and be content with your progression, but man, the minute you stop to look around and enjoy where you're at, I think that you're not walking up the mountain anymore. And then, you constantly got to battle your way up.
Was there a point where you felt like you were stopping and looking around at any time during your career?
No, I haven't done that yet. I don't feel. I think that if anything, I'm constantly, improving as a fighter. I'm never satisfied. I have a hard time even watching my own fights sometimes. I know it's weird. I hear people, my wife says she never understood that when people say, I don't watch my own music videos with their different artists. I get it, because it kills me. When I watched the Czech Congo fight, I cringed. I was like, look, I stepped over and I landed on my heel. I didn't even want to talk to my coach because I knew Giff was going to talk to me. He goes, it was great, but I see myself drop my left hand, rock it down by my rib cage, throw it over the top, stepped on my heel, didn't step on my toes, and then when I went down, I dove in, threw punches instead of establishing the side control or top position, which allowed Congo to come up on a single, which, I capitalized and landed a guillotine on him. But if that had been somebody with a little bit more wrestling progression, they could have taken me down and turned the fight around. That's a ton of mistakes in a minute and 8 seconds, minute 12 seconds. Wow, how can you be happy about that?
Are you at all concerned that you may be spreading yourself too thin in terms of your involvement with Suffer and the new gym? One of the things that Miguel Torres had talked about before his comeback fight was that he felt like he was spending too much time running the gym and not enough time training.
Well, it's called outsourcing. Very intelligent approach to a lot of businessmen. I always try to learn from other individuals, and I don't think that you see anybody. I mean, you got a high-power lawyer who's not running his papers down at the courthouse. You know what I mean? He's not even picking up his own laundry. I'm blessed the fact that my wife, my father, everybody around me is constantly grabbing things. Tony now, even Richie, he kind of has dual roles. He's a coach, and he comes down. I mean, my stepson Marcus, the guy, he has his own vehicle now. Everybody's like, oh, that's great, he has a car. I'm like, no, it sucks, he has his own car. Because now, when I need something at Walmart at 9 o'clock at night, guess who's running and going and getting it from Walmart at 9 o'clock at night? I don't even let the dogs out, change diapers. I really, sometimes it's very much over specialized, I guess, but at the same time, it's all I do. I mean, right now, if I wasn't here talking to you guys, I'd go home, sit there, play video games with my kid, and read a book, I watch a little bit of TV. I got the Apple TV thing. Don't buy that for anybody if you don't want them to be productive. I'm telling you right now, Jon Stewart, I'm obsessed.
So what do you think about what happened to Miguel Torres?
Obviously, it's disappointing. I think that he came out. I mean, in one aspect, you're like, wow, he did. I'm like, guys, he fought a great fighter. Joseph Benavidez is no slouch. Half the blame is that he was really good. You know what I mean? That's just the way it works. He's facing a guy that his only loss now was to Dominic Cruz. And Dominic Cruz, you just seen what he did to Brian Bowles. That wasn't even a fight. That was amazing. I'm still, putting that fight on and watching. That blew my mind. I sat there and I got chills. It was unbelievable. They fought a really hard battle. Dominic Cruz, if my memory serves me correctly, resorted to having to pull his wrestling abilities out. He had, he wasn't just straight striking with, Joseph Benavidez. I think that in a 5-round fight, it's going to be amazing when they step up to that level. A lot of it was, a majority of it goes that Joseph Benavidez is great. Miguel Torres didn't fight at 100%, and if you don't fight at 100% against a guy like Joseph Benavidez, you're not coming home victorious. Against the cage, he got taken down, caught with that elbow, and sliced him open. And I think that a little bit of panic set in as far as not, stress, but like, oh man, this fight could get stopped. I'm a fighter, I know what that feels like. You get a certain cut, you feel blood trickling. First thought that goes through your mind is not what I got caught with, how can I avoid it? You're like, oh man, is it in a spot? They're going to stop the fight. Because we all have seen that happen time and time again. You get cut, you get that pause, the doctor comes up to the outside of the octagon, and you just, oh, please, just don't tell me what's about to happen. It's a bad thing. So then, he dove in and then got caught with a beautiful guillotine. I mean, wow. And I have a lot of respect. I know a lot of people said that they're like, oh, I don't think Miguel should have tapped. Being a warrior, you go out. I'm like, what? Yeah, give me your neck and tell me you're not going to tap. That's just, that's just the sport aspect of just honor. You caught me. I'm done. I got to go home and improve and work on this. And I don't think it would have showcased anything besides ignorance when you don't tap. You sit there and go to sleep. I think that's a mistake. One thing is if you don't tap because you thought you were out, but to sit there and go, I'm just going to go to sleep. I don't agree with that.
So as you watched, was there any thought that maybe I overestimated this guy about how good he was, or did everyone else kind of catch up to him?
No, I don't think I've overestimated him. I think that Miguel really is as good as he is. I think that he also went out there and, like I said earlier, did not fight at 100%. I don't really see Miguel circle around and run from people that much. Not that he was running, but as far as his footwork, and he wasn't aggressive. And Miguel is a very technical fighter, but the guy's also that warrior spirit. I make those jokes where you have to send a guy into battle and he has no chance of winning. He's the first guy I'm picking. I'm like, I hand him the stuff and send him in. The guy will figure out a way. And so I think he was tentative, and that's not a fight to be tentative in against Joseph Benavidez. I think he got worried about the takedown and didn't really throw out there, and it happens. He made a mistake. I watched him out here in Vegas training. Miguel is a phenomenal fighter still. I'm still impressed by him, but that's just the thing. It's like saying, hey, the guy had the bronze medal at the Olympics, he ain't that good, right? No, he just happened to be that, on that day that the silver medals and the gold medals are a little bit better. So, right now, 135 and 145 at the WC is just, if you're top 10, you could on any given day probably be better than the champion if your training regimen peaks the proper time and a little bit of luck on your side, and they're just so closely put together. That's if you watch collegiate wrestling, it's the same way. You don't really see guys really storming through undefeated season after season. Why do they have losses all the time? Because everybody is really, really good.